Good. Great. Busy?
Okay, we should be good.
Good.
Okay, very good, thank you. We're here this evening on September 13, and we have a number of items, and we'll call the meeting to order. Our first one back now since the end of the governor's emergency order. So our first matter is a public hearing. This is for 79 South Greeley Avenue, the Bank of America. This is an application for site development plan approval for redesign of the building exterior lighting, exterior painting, rewrap of awning, and a new sign. So this is continued from our July 5th, 2022 meeting. So do we have an applicant on our screen? We have lots of people on the screen. It seems like Hollywood Squares right now. I'm not sure who's up there. Hi, Sabrina. Hi, Bob.
There's Bob, Sabrina.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Do we have an applicant representative up here?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I was having so much trouble connecting to audio, but I'm just using the computer audio, so I apologize.
No, it's perfect.
Getting frustrating, it's just not working right for me here. Yes, I am Sunika. I believe that my engineer is also on the line.
Yep, Jason Akash with Stonefield Engineering as well.
Very good, thank you. Well, would you like to give us a little update in terms of where we are from with the latest version of the plan? And since it is a public hearing, very quickly, briefly, just outline what the proposal is.
I will start. So we're proposing some exterior lighting. This is for security purposes, as well as painting the building. And we're painting it white. We remove the existing canopy, which is dark charcoal gray, and then there's also going to be new signage. Now, for the last meeting, I believe the only outstanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the only outstanding item now that we're discussing is the lighting. So I'm not sure if you're going to pull up drawings or.
Yeah, I can share my screen with the latest drawings.
Super,
By that
thank you.
ability, I can go to the lighting.
Yep.
You should be able to.
Terrific.
Alright, so I'm going to be going through the lighting changes that we've made since our July 5th meeting. Basically, previously, our lighting levels within South Greeley Avenue really were a lot higher than the board would like to see. And essentially, we went back and revised the levels to still meet the state and bank ATM security lighting standards, but also really drastically reduce these levels, anywhere from 75 to 80% along South Greeley Avenue. It has been reduced. And this is done by removing those area lights that previously were being proposed along the wall. Really getting rid of that stadium kind of feel and basically proposing only security wall packs. And by doing this, you can see the levels essentially have reduced 80% or so all along South Greeley Avenue. And more importantly, we do comply with the state ATM security lighting standard.
So we still have some spillage on South Greeley, but you've indicated that this is now reduced with these new strategies?
Yeah, essentially. So along South Greeley Avenue, you can see basically in the middle of the roadway at 0.5 there. Previously that was all the way up to 5. And we were seeing spillage over 1 along the actual opposite side of the roadway. This is basically reduced down to 0 here, and really doing the best we can by limiting the amount of spillage that's being created, but also complying with those compliance radiuses that are associated with the ATMs and the after-hour depository along South Greeley.
I couldn't find anything in your lighting, it's not to say it's not in there, but I couldn't find it with regard to the temperature of the lighting that you're proposing, the Kelvin scale. So can you speak to that? Because we normally like to see something in the 2,500 to 3,000 range, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, this one's previously been addressed. I think it was one of the previous comments we had from the June 21st review letter. I believe we have them at 3,000 Kelvin now, and we comply with town standards. But that has been addressed with the review letter previously.
Okay, so are you saying that Tom, I think, has found some specs?
Yeah, it's in the data is in on the spec sheet, on the fixture specs. And I'm looking at, there is a standard fixture that you're using here for the exterior lighting, which is this wall-mounted fixture. And it's essentially the same fixture, but lamped as differently depending on where it is on the wall. Is that essentially the strategy here?
Yeah, we'll essentially need some different throws, and also just different mounting heights throughout the wall along South Greeley, just due to the existing facade that's there.
So,
but they're all essentially that same security wall pack that's shown. That's correct.
right. So then there are different versions of it depending on actually what you want the fixture to do, how many lumens, so on and so forth. And I am noticing that you have this 3 series. I'm sorry, it's the 3ME, the 4ME. In this fixture schedule, it shows, not the schedule, but the spec sheet, it shows that for the 3ME, sorry, for the 2ME, it's 3,000 Kelvin. For the 3ME, it's 4,000 Kelvin, and for the 4ME, it's 5,000 Kelvin. So you have a different temperature for it's the same fixture type. You have different Kelvin for temperatures for different fixtures. So there's a variety of lamps here, right?
So you're referring to the spec sheet that's calling out the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe the spec sheet might have to be updated to all be 3,000, but the design has been shown all with the 3,000 Kelvin fixtures.
Okay. So for each of these fixture types, it's the same type of fixture, but I don't know what to call it, lamped differently, right? Depending on the need, you can, for each one of those, you can still maintain a 3,000 Kelvin.
Correct.
Got it. Thanks.
They'll all be the same temperature.
I want to ask you about the CRI, because it's pretty low. I don't know what we're using in the pedestrian lighting that the town has put in as part of the streetscape improvements. Is there a way to boost the CRI with a different lamp type, or is this really the lamp type which makes the most sense for what you're trying to achieve here?
This typically is, the most efficient lamp type that we see for all these Bank of Americas when it comes to their security lighting. They really do provide the most efficient kind of output, while in the situations limiting the amount of spillage that's associated with them.
How are you measuring efficiency? Cost?
So efficiency in this case, I mean, you can see if you compare the previous plans that we provided with the plans that are being shown now, they really do, actually provide what they're meant to do in this scenario, only that radius that goes up to the South Greeley Avenue sidewalk, instead of really spilling onto the roadway like the previous lights were doing.
Well, that's not a function of the. That's not a function of the CRI, that's a function of the design of the lamp itself, isn't it? I mean, the throw of the lamp and the angle of the lamp?
Right, and that's why we're specifying these different kind of throws on them. Being the same fixture, but in different situations here, we're using different throws.
Okay, but I guess I'm not getting to the question I'm trying to ask here. So what are these, halogen, what are these?
Aren't they LED?
The actual
Lamp, yeah,
manufacturer.
LED.
Yeah, these are LED fixtures.
Okay, so they're LEDs, right? And when you say it's efficient, more efficient, again, I'm trying to find out what you mean by efficiency. Is it cost, is it energy, what is it, energy efficiency you're talking about?
I mean, yeah, naturally, the LED lights will be more energy efficient. And that's just something the bank, when they're upgrading their sites, they're really looking to implement these LED fixtures.
Got it, okay. So, for clarification, the light level requirements that we're trying to meet here, where, at what point how's that measured? Is it at the 5 foot height, at the task height of the depository itself? Is it the sidewalk level? At what point is that measured?
So there's different compliance radiuses. I can go to the security lighting sheets that we have. Essentially it's measured at the face either of the after hour depository or of the lobby entrance, all between a 5 foot radius, a 30 foot radius, a 50 foot radius, and a 60 foot radius. And then depending on the compliance radius, it's either measured at grade or horizontally, 60 inches horizontally, or also 60 inches vertically above.
Right, and I've seen that from your drawings, looking at your drawings the other day. But the question, I'm asking the question just for the benefit of the public so that they understand what it is that we're, the requirements that we're trying to meet here, because there may be some people who are going to say, gee whiz, look at what's happening here. So I'm looking at the requirement for lighting at 5 feet, 60 inches high for that 5 foot radius, and we're up at around 48, 49 lumens at that the inside of that radius where the wall is, right? So that's essentially really pretty much the task lighting, and most of that lighting is gonna be are these wall washers? Most of it's gonna be on the wall?
You're talking about outside of the building or within the actual buildings? We have a mixture of canopy lightings.
I'm talking about fixture UTB1 at the night depository.
So this one is a wall mount. I believe that 8 feet high.
8 feet high under the canopy.
I think.
This one followed.
Sorry, I was just curious. Last time we looked at this, I think we had talked about an elevation. Is that an overkill? Just to know the heights at which these light fixtures are? It's just easier to see it.
Where they're placed on the side.
Mounting heights are provided within, the luminaire schedule, but are you asking for an actual elevation of the building?
Well,
I mean, maybe it's an overkill, but I really think it's probably useful because in my mind, these are really too high up. I mean, they're gonna literally flood that entire area and beyond. What would also help is probably a photo of something else you have actually installed in some other location. That might help us. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw a wrench into this, but I just feel like there's way too many lights at different heights, and I'm just wondering if we're overdoing this.
So, I don't disagree. The lighting that is really solving the, unless I'm mistaken, the light that is solving the 5-foot radius is UTB1, right? And the other ones that are to the left and the right of that, do they also help you meet the lighting requirement at the 30-foot radius? Or are they just general wall lights for just lighting?
No, these lights outside of the UTV1 are used for the lights outside of that 5-foot compliance radius.
Oh, so the actual compliance, the actual compliance radius is the 5-foot one, not the 30-foot one.
There's 4 associated radiuses with it. It's that 5-foot, the 30-foot, a 50-foot one, and also a 60-foot one. So that's why these other lights along South Greeley really are necessary.
Got it. So are the lighting levels that are shown in this in your diagrams, your lighting diagrams, are they additive to the background lighting that's there, ambient lighting that's there? Or are they in addition to that, or do they include the background lighting of the street lamps and the pedestrian lighting?
So this has previously come up in regards to this one existing fixture that's been here. We haven't modeled it in our design. We really don't believe there's any light, that's being thrown from this existing fixture. It's really just more of a decorative fixture for South Greeley Avenue. But the lighting levels that you're seeing here are only for the proposed lights that we are showing.
So I guess you say it's only for South Greeley Avenue. It's pedestrian lighting for the sidewalk. I mean, it serves a purpose, and I assume that it provides light to the sidewalk. That's the purpose of it. Unless I'm mistaken. I mean, it just seems to me that we ought to be trying to meet the minimum standard that is required in order to have this night depository box here, rather than, putting more in than we actually need to have. And I understand how it's easier just to take the fixture specs and do the calculations, and it's probably all in the schedule that the manufacturer provides you. And you just sort of put it in drawings and say, okay, this is what we can do. And I appreciate the fact you've done your best to reduce the amount of lighting. But I'm wondering if we still aren't providing more than actually is required, because there is some background lighting there. There is also, you're talking about the pedestrian lighting, there's also a street lamp lighting here, roadway lighting.
Yeah, and I think we did talk about this last time, because I think you were to coordinate with Bob Scioli and get information about the town's lighting specifications. And I think even with an eye toward perhaps whether it's possible to even change the bulb in some of these lights to enhance it and therefore decrease the amount that you needed on your wall. I don't know if that happened or not, but I know we talked about it, and so this is not new. Again, the idea here is, we understand there's gonna be some sort of spillover. It's in a hamlet, it's not the end of the world, but we'd really like to get it down to a minimum to accomplish your goals of complying with the state regulations, but at the same token, something that's consistent with the town's rules. So did you have any luck with that? Was there any work in terms of the town's lighting and the specifications and what that lamp was doing and what the street lamps that Tom Curley was just mentioning, what they might bring in terms of lighting to the area? The so-called, well, I guess it's ambient, but it's background lighting, I guess.
Hi, so this is, I did make that request, but I didn't receive anything.
That's my fault. I got a request, I didn't get to it, that's my fault, my apologies.
Well, that would be helpful, I think, if we can get that to the applicant, and perhaps they can work on that and see if that helps at all. having that background ambient lighting as part of the equation. I know we talked a lot, Tom talked a lot last time about various canopy treatments. And I'm not sure we saw any of those alternatives. It might be that they just are unworkable, but if you could just speak to that issue, did you in fact look at it any further? Is it something that just doesn't work? Is this really the best way to go? Because we did spend a good deal of time on those alternatives last time.
Of course, are you referring to whether or not canopy should remain?
Yeah, and I think the lighting, say within the canopies, I believe, to keep the spillage lighting to a minimum, but yet still accomplishing what you need to accomplish to meet the state's rules.
Definitely, and I believe that that's exactly what Jason and his team did, try to capture, because the lighting levels as previously proposed, they were significantly higher, so there was a great deal of thought put into what we're presenting here today to try to, meet those standards, make it safe for pedestrians, while also trying to satisfy, our conversation from the last meeting to, significantly reduce it and not have that much spillage. So I do believe that the best design was proposed as far as, making sure that everyone is, happy with the design.
Did we reduce the number of fixtures or did we reduce the number of fixtures from the last time?
Yes, I think we did.
There is reduction of fixtures. I think that what is being asked for now is a comparison of the amount of light that is currently on the roadway
Sure.
in relation to the town's standards of the light poles that are out there and what is absolutely necessary for the bank.
The roadway and the sidewalk and,
Correct.
right, and any light that actually happens to be falling within this 5-foot radius and this 30-foot radius. And the contributions that are made by those existing lights.
Well, even 50 and 60, so there are two other levels as well. So I mean, the further you go out, there's probably more background lighting.
And I think another question that was raised this morning with the chairman is the hours of the lighting. Is there certain security lighting that stays on all night? Is it, do you have any specifications for the different light fixtures and the time that they will be lit?
I'm not sure, Jason, I'm not sure if you know if there's a timer for the lighting now and a proposed timer.
Well, I mean, for some of the off hours, I wonder whether or not there might be some sort of technology that would enable you to have the lights turn on when someone gets within, say, 60 feet or 50 feet, whatever the mark is. So that we take advantage of technology out here and we don't have this thing blasting all the time, but certainly when you need it, it stays on for a certain amount of time. Maybe even the lobby also. I'm talking about the really off hours, probably very late at night and into the early morning. You'll see very, very little traffic, and I'm sure there's some, but perhaps we can look at something like that, as long as it meets, the state code.
I'm not sure what actually is I'm not sure if that's something that can just be off, if that's actually really compliant, if it's not something that is on.
Okay, so maybe we can find out.
But right now, what is the plan with these lights? Are they required to stay on all night?
They're required to be on from dusk to dawn essentially.
Okay.
But we can get them actual confirmation beyond that.
And we would want that detail put on the site plan.
And I think the other detail that we would want on the site plan for clarification is that the fixtures will all be at 3,000 Kelvin or less, because we do have these various fixtures at various levels. So that would just be a condition that we would wanna make sure you meet it any way you want, but I think that's important. I'm not sure about the CRA, you have to talk to that, Tom.
Yeah, CRI, I guess is gonna be what it's gonna be. It'd be great if we could do better, but for this particular application, I'm not sure that I'd be that concerned because we're really just lighting the sidewalk and a building wall essentially. But I wanna get back to Kanan's question if I could. The fixtures which are on South Greeley, the South Greeley facade are listed in the schedule at 13 feet, excepting for the one which is over the night depository, which is at 8 feet. I guess that's so that you can get the light concentration you need within that 5-foot radius.
Yeah, I believe that was the intent there.
So the 13-foot high ones, they are under the canopies, is that right? I think this is why
Yes.
I think this is why we wanna see an elevation to really understand what's going on here.
Understood.
Yeah, I think a side elevation would really be helpful for us.
I think it would be great if they're under the canopies, actually. I think that would be the best place for them. In terms of just the appearance of things, the aesthetics of things. So if we get confirmation on that with an elevation, I think that would be helpful.
Is there a nearby location that you have installed this kind of lighting? I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
I said we can definitely take a look at projects to see if we have any comparison. We can tell you.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
No problem.
yep. Sabrina, you had some questions about the rear lighting as well? Have those been resolved?
Yes, those have been resolved.
Great.
All of my comments have been addressed, if not by the applicant, by the board this evening. For the board's information, it still remains to be a type 2 action.
Right.
The additional information regarding signage and awnings, and painting the building, there was no new information submitted here, so, if it is the desire for the applicant to include that information which was discussed previously in this application, we would need to understand if there were changes made based on the board's comments at the last meeting.
Can you do the painting, signage, and canopy?
We're having trouble hearing you.
Yeah,
I'm
we
so
could be.
sorry, it's my audio. Are you, Sabrina, do you need any changes to the canopy or painting or signage?
Yes, but when you first came in, you presented an entire package, which included new painting the building, new awnings and new signage. Are you still moving forward with the painting, awnings and signage?
Yes. There have been no changes to that because there were no comments from the last meeting, so we did not change anything to what we were looking to propose.
Okay, so if I would assume that based on the discussion tonight, you will be making a resubmission to the planning board after verifying these streetlights and kind of what the overall lighting onto the street would be. We should have the detail as presented regarding painting the building, the signage and the awnings as well, so we can approve all of that as a package.
Well, I guess I have a question about this now. So what should we do for the next meeting? So I have my notes here, I obviously know exactly, we know what you guys want for the next meeting, but I just don't wanna risk if there's going to be additional comments on the lighting and then we can't move forward with the canopy painting and the signage.
Well, I think we need to have an elevation of the side of the building as proposed with lighting designated in there. I think we have to have some clarification in terms of some homework from our standpoint in cooperation with Bob Cioli. Information about the so-called background lighting that we have on the sidewalk as well as on the street lamps to see what that is at the 5, 30, 50, and 60-foot levels. And then for you folks to also do some investigation in terms of technology, in terms of the hours, what can be done in terms of perhaps having a minimal ambient lighting on the building, and then that it turns into something else as someone approaches within whatever the footage is that's required by the state. 30 feet, 60 feet, 50 feet, 5 feet, whatever. We want this to be safe, of course, but at the same token, we wanna try to minimize the spillage. The fact that we have some spillage on the sidewalk, in my opinion, is not the end of the world. It is a hamlet, it's downtown, so it's okay, but in terms of the quality of that spillage, I think is important in terms of the Kelvin temperature, CRIs, et cetera. Was there anything else that we need on this that we wanted to see?
I have one question.
Sure.
And
Timing
I-
of the on and off of the lights.
Yeah.
I don't believe I was at the meeting when this was discussed previously, so I apologize if this was covered, but when it comes to the lighting, you're talking about meeting code, minimum requirements for code when it comes to this kind of use. Is the current use not up to code?
It's not up to the state ATM security lighting standards.
Are those new standards, or that just has been out of compliance for a long time?
I can't speak to how long it's been out of compliance, but this project is meant to bring it into compliance now.
It's not that recent, Eldad. I would say that this code, the state code's been around for at least 10 years. So we've had other applications over the years on this lighting issue. So we have some degree of, we're familiar with it.
Thank you.
So I'm mindful of you guys wanting to get through this as quickly as possible, and I appreciate that, and I'm in support of that. I don't see any really big outstanding issues here. I think that we would just like to have whatever background look-see you can give us on the items that Bob has listed, so that we can just feel that we check these things off our list. And I don't see going past going any further along in this process than need be. So if you can help us at the next meeting to bring these things to us, after working with the town staff, Bob Cioli and Sabrina and so on, I think we could, from my perspective, we could move this pretty quickly.
I agree. I mean, I think.
And I would like to add, just for the applicant's understanding, typically the board does not allow off-site spillage of light. And so in this instance, I think there's recognition that because we're dealing with state standards for ATMs and a bank, that it's necessary. So they need to really understand how it is going to be beyond what they normally approve of.
No, listen, I totally understand. Hopefully my audio is a little bit better. I opened the speaker a little bit more, so I think this might work.
Well, I think the takeaway here is let's get this information. We'll continue the public hearing. Reschedule the public hearing as soon as you have that information to us, and I'm pretty confident that once we get that information, we could even perhaps draw up a draft resolution, have it ready so that we will be in a position to close the public hearing over the throngs here, and then also approve the resolution the same evening, so you're done. So, but we need you just to do that homework, check those few boxes, and get that material to us. And I think it would be very, very helpful, and I think we'll be in position to move this forward.
Definitely.
So
We can definitely get you that. Oh, sorry.
it looks like I was able to find one of the elevations. So I can share my screen again.
Sure.
Quickly, just look at this. It kind of gives you a better idea of where these are located. You can see the one UTB with the after-hour depository, definitely below the canopies. And it does look like it has to be updated to reflect the other fixtures that'll be along South Greeley. But they will be, below that canopy, just like the one that is shown on the corner here.
Do us a favor and take the trees out next time.
The windows in, but that's okay.
Trees are actually a lot smaller than that too, by the way, but they'll get there someday. It's kind of a futuristic diagram.
When we are ready for the next renovation.
Can I ask a question about the building here? The building that I guess we're looking at here, How far does the bank tenancy actually go along this elevation from left to right? Because there's another tenant in the building to the left of the bank itself.
Yeah, there's no windows there also, but.
There are windows.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really accurately depicted.
So we
We're
need
gonna
a,
be able to figure out on this elevation, but
yeah, I wouldn't call this an elevation that is useful for our purposes.
It's missing some windows, it's
So, just, draw it realistically with the
it's
the
missing
tenants and the windows, et cetera.
it's missing the street light
Actually,
there.
your whole facade has got windows, right? On the
Yes.
bank.
yeah, this is more really just for the fixture,
Yeah, okay, got it,
locations,
we
but
got it.
we'll get that updated.
Okay,
Great.
super.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, so, do we have to set a date, Drew, for a public hearing?
Well, it's my understanding that this is a continued
It is
public hearing.
Yes, it is.
So you have to, I would recommend taking public comments now, since it is
Sure.
a public hearing, and then you would just adjourn the public hearing to the next date.
Okay, good point, so we'll take comments from the public on this. There are none here, so perhaps there's some virtually. Anyone with a hand up? None there at all, Freedom? Okay, well, not seeing any right now, again, we'll just adjourn this public hearing, we'll continue it for the next time. Is there a calendar date that we can sort of target for the applicant? And then, materials have to be in by a certain date?
The next submission deadline is September 26th, which is for the October 18th meeting.
Does that sound good?
Honestly, I think that depending how, the question is for Bob, how quickly he can get the information to the applicant and then how much time they need to revise.
I'll do it first thing tomorrow, my apologies.
Okay, and so then it's a matter of could you meet that October meeting?
With the 9/26 deadline, was it?
It's almost 2 weeks from now.
We will try our best.
I would recommend adjourning it to a date certain, adjourning it to that October date, and then if they haven't submitted and they need more
We can adjourn
time,
it again.
it would be adjourned at that
Okay.
meeting.
Let's do that, this way we'll give you guys a target, a carrot, and we'll try to get it done at that time. Okay?
I just have one more question.
Sure.
So is this again a hard copy submission, same as before?
Yes.
And then should I resend the same signage materials? The hard copy that was included before?
Well, we don't have any issues on it, but Sabrina, do you wanna why don't we just get one complete submission so we have everything
Yeah,
in
we
front of us?
need one complete submission because we have to reference the entirety in the
Right.
public hearing.
This is a site plan application, so we really need to have everything in front of us.
So, but it's not the new application itself though, correct? Because last time
No.
we give the plan.
No.
Oh, okay, good, just making sure.
Yeah.
So just resend the plans with the same signage package we submitted the first time.
Correct.
Okay,
Alrighty?
great.
Okay, so we'll see you then.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. So we move now to our next item. Someone saying something? Okay. Move to our next item, and this is a public hearing for 208 Sawmill River Road, the Chestnut Market. This is an application for a site development plan, approval for fabrication and installation of 2 sets of externally illuminated signs over the storefront.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm Nancy Forrest, and I'm representing the client.
great. So can you give us a quick rundown of what you're applying for? Again,
Yes, we're applying for 2 wall signs, one for Chestnut Market and one for GT Auto Tech. Originally, our submission was for backlit channel letters, as the client had seen a set around the corner from them that they really liked. And then we were told we were denied that and told that we could not have internally illuminated letters of any kind, backlit or otherwise. So we resubmitted We will be doing the same fabricated letters with the dimension to them, and they just will not be illuminated. And they will have external light bars, which are very difficult for you to see in your drawing. They're above each sign, and they are painted to match the facade. And they will have lighting in them. At the bottom of your drawing is the best representation we can give you. You will not see any lights. It will just be angled at the building and put a slight glow on the back of the building so they would be able to be seen. But there's no internal lighting.
Okay. Sabrina, do you wanna run through your notes?
Sure, like the previous application, this application is considered a type 2 action, under the.
I'm sorry, since this is the first time, we need a motion to open the public hearing.
Yes, it is a public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sorry,
That's okay.
we're gonna still keep it on the tape.
The signage is consistent with both the town sign code as well as the Millwood guidelines. The applicant did revise their application prior to your board seeing it, so everything is consistent with the code. The one question, again, that was raised this morning was the hour of operation of the lighting. Nancy, did you have a timeframe that the signs will be lit?
I haven't been given one. I'm assuming the GT Auto Tech is not gonna be open extremely late, so these can be separately shut down as well. I'm assuming Chestnut Market would like to be on as long as they have hours that they're open.
So you're saying that lighting will be consistent with the hours of operation of the facilities?
Yes.
Okay, cause we would want that put as a note on the plans.
We normally, we don't do that because we do go to some towns where they have their own time they want it shut down, especially if I'm having a public hearing and it's being reviewed by a board. So I would certainly send that to you, but normally we go in with them lit and either shut out when business is over, but sometimes I have towns that want it a little bit sooner than that, so.
Well, what are can you provide the hours of operation for the facilities?
I do not know on this Chestnut Market how late they are open. I don't think they're like a 24-hour one. But
I've heard a 24-hour.
I've never seen it open past like 8:30. But
Well, instead of guessing, is it possible for you to
Yeah, I
provide that information to us?
Sure, I can get that for
Great,
you.
thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Hi, this is Sharif, I'm actually with Chestnut
Hi,
Market.
Sharif.
Hi Nancy, thanks for being here for us. We closed that operation at 10 p.m. So we would like the lighting to be allowed to be open until we close.
Well, very
But like
often,
Nancy stated, we can shut down the automotive lighting when they close their shop, I just don't have its exact hours.
and I don't think we would have a problem if you were another half hour after you close. I mean, very often it takes a while to close down and come out and save, you know, for safety, et cetera, so that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
And then I have no further questions or comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So this is just reflective lighting on the signs, so we don't have any issue here of spillage, we have lighting in this area anyway. What kind of lights are these? I guess they're LED lights?
Yes, there will be LED lights within the fixture.
Do we care about the Kelvin on something like this? Again, should it be in the 2,500 to 3,000 range? I don't know what you're proposing.
Excuse me 1 minute, let me see if they put that down
What's
for
in
me.
here?
Normally on the second page there, we'll put down the LEDs. They will be white, I don't know if they're 2,500. Let's put it this way, if you tell me what it needs to be, then and we'll make sure that that's
We
what it
normally,
is.
we normally don't like it to see CO2 exceed 3,000 Kelvin. So anything 3,000 or less, you're fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure our standard is 2,500.
Right.
But I will verify that with you, Sabrina, tomorrow, or? Sure.
Well, if you wish, we can put that, you know, we have a proposed resolution here, we could just put that as a condition.
That would be great, I'd appreciate
We can
that.
incorporate the hours this evening, I think we have a pretty good idea of what the hours are, make those changes in the resolution. Assuming the public does not object to our closing the public hearing, we will move it forward and get you done. So
Thank you.
if those sound fair, we can do that.
That sounds great to us.
This is all part of our new one-stop express approvals here, with a big giant rubber stamp.
We like it.
Does anyone else have any questions on it?
I don't.
Bob, any questions? Members of the board?
No, I think it looks good. I think it's an improvement. I do wanna warn you though, when I drive by with my dogs in the car and they see that squirrel, they're gonna go crazy.
It's a good reason for you to stop in.
Great marketing, see
No,
that?
you don't want them in your store. But I think this is good. I think it's thank you for bringing it in.
Super. Do we have any, Freedom, do we have anyone online who wishes to speak? Members of the public? I promise there will be one or two in the future, Freedom, you're in that back room. What are we doing here? Anyway, okay, not seeing any comments, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. We have a resolution in front of us that's been drawn up in anticipation of approval. I think if we could just get the wording in there, Drew, to add the hours of operation to coordinate with Sabrina, the information she got tonight. And what was the other item?
The Calvins.
Oh, the Kelvin, not to exceed 3,000. And of course, to make that one change, I mentioned this morning there at the bottom of page 1, I'm sure we cleaned up, this is not a COVID meeting anymore, we're meeting in the emergency time, so that has to be changed. But other than that, does that sound okay,
Yep.
board members?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, if so, is there a motion to approve the resolution as amended, or proposed to be amended?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was a fast application.
We like those too, thank you very
Exactly,
much.
very good.
Thank
luck.
you very much, everyone. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome, Sharif. Talk to you tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, our next item is the, I guess is a continuation of the public hearing, or is it a new public hearing for Chappaqua Crossing regarding the site plan amendment for the installation of garbage receptacles? I can't recall if that was a public hearing last time, or if it's just an informal.
It's new.
This is a new public hearing, so we'll need a motion then to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
there we are, okay.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board, Diana Cola from Bell and Ellen Weingarten for the applicant CLS Chappaqua and the HPP Chappaqua, the current owner of the retail portion of Chappaqua Crossing. Also on tonight is Dave Walsh from Summit Development and Mark Gratz from DTS Provident. So just to recap, the application before you is for a site plan amendment to eliminate a 2015 site plan condition that prohibited exterior trash containers at the site, and to permit the placement of 2 trash enclosures for to service the retail buildings D, E, and F. We last appeared before your board, as mentioned, on July 19th, and that was for informal review. In response to staff and board member comments, we submitted an updated revised trash enclosure plan that Mark Gratz will walk you through in a moment. We also submitted a color sample of the enclosures. And in addition, we did include information from our trash hauler regarding the size of the containers, the truck access to the enclosures, and the pickup schedule. And we also did provide information from the broker for the shopping center explaining the need for these enclosures and the hardship posed by the interior rooms, trash rooms for the potential tenants. So, we do hope that tonight will answer any remaining questions that you might have, and so that you would, feel comfortable closing the public hearing and directing the preparation of a resolution. I'm going to turn it over to Mark now to just walk you through the plan. And Mark, are you going to share your screen, or would you like me to share it?
I can share my screen if you want to have the drawings up here. And good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As Diana said, Mark Ratz from DTS Provident. Hopefully I'm coming through fine audio-wise.
Yep.
Okay. Let me share my screen, and I'm basically just pulling up the same drawings that were submitted back in August to the board. And hopefully that will be coming up there. And what you should be seeing now is the overall trash enclosure plan that highlights the two areas of the trash enclosures that are being requested. One for building D&E and one for basically building F or Lifetime Fitness. The plans that we submitted back in August were revised based on the comments that we had received from Town Engineer Bob Scioli. And members of the board at the time from the informal meeting, as Diana had alluded to, back on the 19th of July. And what we're proposing is to modify one of the end islands at Lifetime Fitness to basically permit a head-on pickup of basically an 8 cubic yard dumpster, which will minimize the amount of times that pickups need to occur for Lifetime Fitness. Also prepared a graphic that would basically just show, let me see if I can pull that up. Apologize on this one. So we wanted to demonstrate, Bob, based on your comments, to basically show how a trash vehicle could enter the site and basically move head into that trash enclosure where it's currently, where it's proposed to be located, and then similarly, obviously, exit the same way. So that's something we did subsequent to the 22nd, but I just wanted to have that here to demonstrate and respond to Bob, your comments. Going back to the actual, sorry, wrong graphs. So that covered the Lifetime Fitness area. The one issue that I just wanted to bring up here, because we know there was a request for bollards being placed in front of the trash enclosure with the head-on pickups because of the size of the dumpsters and the ability to have to be able to swing those gates wide open. There wouldn't be sufficient room to place bollards in front of those gates without restricting those gates from fully opening. Over at D&E, there the proposed use is for smaller 2-yard dumpsters, which will be basically pulled out at the time of trash pickup by the carters, primarily because there you don't have the room to provide for, let's say, a head-in pickup. Also, the smaller dumpsters are being proposed, obviously, to make them manageable to the carters for the manual pull-out and repositioning back in the trash enclosures. Both of these plans have been vetted with Waste Innovations and were referred to in the letter that was included in the submission. And basically they stated that with the proposed revision to the entry to the end island over by Lifetime Fitness and with the use of the 2 cubic yard dumpsters, that they would have no problem servicing these trash enclosure locations. As to color and samples, I believe that was addressed back on the 19th, but we could, just for recollection, this was my understanding is what we showed at that last public meeting. it gives you both a feel for the fence type of material and the color that is being proposed. And I think that pretty much sums it up. There was an issue or a question raised about parking. And the fact that we would be losing 4 spaces from the retail parking. And I just wanted to pull one thing forward from basically the original office parking management plan that was prepared back in 2015. And basically, because there was some talk about land bank parking, and the land bank parking that was proposed at the time and discussed is all these green spaces and were all related to the office facility. The retail facility, as you're seeing here in tan color, envisioned approximately 700 spaces, which is what exists out there today. And we're only talking about the loss of 4 of those spaces. And it's our understanding of the zoning requirement that based on 120,000 square feet of retail space and the requirement for 5 spaces per 1,000, that only 600 were actually required under zoning. Also, personal experience, I've never seen the parking lot, 100% occupied in the retail portion. I think that basically sums everything up. I don't know if there are any other questions that the board might have. Or Diana, if there's anything further that you wanted to add. I'm sorry, there was one other item too. There was attached to the letter on the 22nd, and Diana had alluded to it, there is a letter from the exclusive broker to the project who basically is of the opinion that the requirement for indoor trash storage is viewed negatively by prospective tenants, and has created an issue with them trying to basically rent out some of the vacant spaces that currently exist.
Right. Okay, thank you. Sabrina, do you want to run through your comments?
Of course. I think that the applicant has addressed all of my comments in this most recent submission. I have one comment to put the hours of garbage collection of the refuse on the site plan. I know that they've been stated, but they actually should be put on that site plan. It's a type 2 action, as I mentioned to the board previously. The only one other issue that we asked about was how you're keeping track of parking. And you specifically said there's 600 parking spaces in accordance with town code, and my day was a little bit later, and when the OPROD was approved, it was the formula of 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of retail use. So there's definitely 600 spaces that have been allocated for the commercial uses. And it's not full now, we know that, but there's concern, that we keep saying there's no problem, and then one day, oh my God, there is a problem. How are you keeping track of that? And what is your proposal to keep track of that?
Sabrina, Dave Walsh, in terms of keeping track of the parking right now, we're not doing parking counts in the retail at all. We have not been asked to do that by the Heitman Group. But certainly with the amount of spaces that are here on site, and it does, even with the elimination of these 4 spots, it still meets the town parking code, and we still, this is a de minimis effect on the parking. So if there's an action that we propose in the future, or that Heitman proposes in the future that may impact the parking, I think they're certainly open to doing some sort of parking analysis on a quarterly or whatever basis that you think might be worthwhile. But right now, I think for these 4 spots and the amount of activity, both at Building F, which is the Lifetime Fitness, and Building D&E, even though yes, they're not full, there's very little space left. I don't think we just haven't seen full parking lots at all. And I'm there essentially every day, as you know. So I think we're open to tracking the parking, and I'm speaking for Heidman at this point. I think that they're open to tracking the parking if they come back with some other type of uses and things of that nature. But for this use, it just seems like it's de minimis.
I just wanna respond to the statement that there is concern about the parking here and the future of the parking here. I don't have any concerns about the parking here, so I maybe the rest of the board does, but I don't support that statement one bit. If you look at do the actual math, which I did the other day, the parking ratio of 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet, and you take out of the 600 spaces, you take out 4 spaces, you're at a parking ratio of 4.97 per 1,000. Now, I don't know under what rational conversation reduction of 0.303% on a parking ratio prompts the request of this applicant to start doing parking studies because there is, I guess, quote, a concern that there may be a problem here, or there may be a future problem here. I guess I'd like to, it just feels like harassment to me. I know it's not the intention, but this board does have a reputation, unfortunately, and sometimes it's deserved and maybe an overreach. And to me, this really feels like really gross overreach in this particular subject. So it might help me to understand what the source of this, are there any other examples in town where we have gone to a developer and said, gee, we think you're not gonna we think you're gonna be in a problem one day with your parking, we want you to track the parking and report to us on a quarterly basis. Maybe that's happening, but I haven't heard it. And in this particular case, there is such an excess of parking on the site. We have land banked areas for parking on the site that it just seems to me that we're just going way too far on this, and we ought to just back off and let things develop as they will. And they may one day, 10 years from now, but they certainly aren't on the immediate horizon here. And when they do, if they do arrive, those problems, we'll take care of it then. That's my feeling. Now, my other thing that wasn't addressed, on the trash enclosure itself, I was concerned that the panels on the trash enclosures are made out of plastic essentially. And I'm very suspicious they're not gonna hold up over time. These are enclosures that are subject to abuse, not intentional abuse, but they are subject to abuse. And an enclosure that's made out of essentially plastic is not gonna last very long, and I'm concerned that it will take a while for it to get repaired, and when it does get repaired, it's gonna be abused again. So I have requested that they be made out of metal, and another protection would be on the inside of the enclosure, because that's where the bins are gonna be going in and out to. If you could put some sort of a concrete, maybe just wheel stops around the perimeter. So when the bins go in, they don't have a chance to get to hit the fence itself.
I think that's a great idea, Tom. I think certainly we would be open to putting some sort of stops on the inside so the roll dumpsters don't hit the fencing, whatever that material will end up being.
And that will not be a problem. Perhaps we misunderstood part of the concerns, and that's why we were assuming that the bollards were intended to be out in front of the enclosure. And while we can do that over by DNA, as I mentioned, we can't do it by Lifetime Fitness, but interior to the enclosures, that's not an issue.
No, you didn't misunderstand. I had this concern last time, but then my link cut out on the Zoom call and I couldn't get it. When I got back on, you guys were gone, so.
We were off.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I had a couple questions. I don't think we really need to get into a detailed any kind of parking report on this, but I had some questions. I had concerns about what I see in here is a proposal, especially for the lifetime dumpster. As I understand it, I don't know what the trash is that's generated there, but I know that you do have a cafe in there. So we have foods, and I don't understand, I don't like the thinking that we'll just have a bigger dumpster and just have it picked up once a week. I don't see why we would do that once a week and the others twice a week. It doesn't matter, I don't care that much about the size of the dumpster that's inside the enclosure. If you have smaller ones, fine. But if the large one is giving you the incentive to just have it picked up once a week, then it will be smaller, not larger, because I don't think you should be picking up just once a week. When there's food, that stuff should be cleared out of there at least twice a week, consistent with what you're doing now. So I don't buy the efficiency that is being proposed here, that we can get this bigger dumpster and we could just use it once a week. You've got some foodstuffs in there. The other question I had for you was the location on the dumpster on D&E. And that location, we just recently approved some outdoor dining, I believe in that space between D and E.
Yep.
And you're proposing to put this dumpster about almost as close as you possibly can to that eating area. It seems to me that we should be looking at a different area than that square there, perhaps moving it further to the south, maybe the western corner, down further along toward building D. But it just seems to be unnecessarily close to an area that we just recently approved for outdoor dining. I think we can do better.
Mr. Chairman, in terms of the outdoor dining that you have approved for the tenant, which is Sweet Greens.
Yes.
It's located, obviously, as you said, in between the two buildings. The dining area is roughly halfway in between that, I'll call it an alleyway for lack of a better term. It begins halfway and it moves south, meaning towards Whole Foods.
Right.
So it's not that close. I mean, the width of that parking lot, we're probably looking at somewhere around, Mark, would you say 50 feet between, the front loaded space and where the dumpster is going? So I think, I don't think we're gonna have much of an issue with that. In fact, one of the larger genesis behind this is Sweet Greens, because they don't like storing all of their compost and everything inside those rooms, and they will have it picked up more often. I think if we were to move the dumpster location closer to the office building, moving west on the parking lot, as you indicated, it makes it more difficult for the people in building E to get their garbage out there. So we were trying to pick a centrally located area that would work, best for everybody, albeit not perfect, but certainly in this situation, we think it would be the most efficient.
But you're also at that bottleneck too, where the sidewalks come in for the trucks. At that very same spot.
You're also right on the pedestrian walkway.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be,
We're about 6 feet off the walkway, yeah, I understand your points, absolutely, but we just felt as though it's not perfect, but this is what, we think is gonna be best for both buildings E and D.
Fair enough, I understand that. I'm concerned about what's best for the people, the actual people who are gonna be here, the customers who are gonna be here, they're gonna be having residents that are coming from this new neighborhood who are gonna be walking down there and potentially going into the development from that walkway. So I agree with Bob. This organic waste, I mean, not only does it attract vermin, right? It's also we have a compost bin behind the garage, and boy, that stuff, you take the lid off and it reeks. So it seems to me that this is really making a negative impact on the sort of the pedestrian experience here by locating it there. I'm more concerned about the people. If there's a location for the other dumpster, which is way far away, as far as it can possibly be from Lifetime Fitness, and they're willing to roll their stuff that far away. It seems to me that it's hard to make the argument that this one has to be this close to this building.
I clearly admitted that it wasn't the perfect location, we thought it was the most efficient. Certainly, if there's significant objections to it, we can certainly look at an alternate location and we can show that on another plan. I myself, if I was picking that location, I might pick the far east side of the parking lot rather than closer to the office building where, you know, I think it might be a little, you know.
But that's gonna be very close to your condominiums that you're building. That's even closer to the residential people.
They are, and yeah.
Is the parking to the north across the,
would it
is that
compromise-
retail parking?
What's that?
That's designated for the office buildings, I think. I don't think that's part of the retail.
That's correct, that's dedicated to the office, and there's a significant elevation change there between those two lots, it's about 4 or 5 feet.
In terms of a compromise, with shifting it to the, what I'll call the east side of that walkway, it is a little bit the greater distance separation, and any residents coming from the building and or the office then would not pass by it. And it still keeps it in close proximity to retail E as well. So basically just flipping it onto this side.
That's not gonna make it.
I guess I have a question, and maybe this is, I don't know, the question is, why are you doing this, right? I mean, I understand like the hardship that you make reference to, but clearly it's not a hardship since Lifetime is here and Sweet Green is here, and you said that the buildings are, for the most part, or you know, majority full, and so it hasn't been a deterrent to rent, the lease the spaces.
It has, and the Lifetime Fitness has been operating with 2 dumpsters outside since they moved in because there is no room in their internal space for trash storage. This has been kind of bantered around over the many years that we've gone through the approval process here. So, you know, this is just one of the last items that we were, you know, hoping to clean up here. But Lifetime Fitness has 2 dumpsters out in that parking lot right now, and that's really one of the main reasons why we haven't been able to get a final certificate of occupancy, as this was the last hurdle to get through and hopefully get approved for this exterior use. So Lifetime can operate with interior garbage storage. Buildings D and E currently do have 2 interior trash rooms as per the original approval, but it's been very difficult to attract the restaurant tenants that I think that we all want here. And also, even with the recent addition of Sweet Greens, we did get a couple of complaints from the people at Compass because their office space abuts the internal trash room that Sweet Greens is using today. So I know we talk about rodent and vermin infestation. I mean, that same program would apply to these exterior locations in order to minimize that, just like every other commercial site in the town of Chappaqua that has these external dumpster locations. So, you know, certainly I think we could find an alternative location that would work behind buildings D and E. I don't think any of them are going to be perfect, but I think we can all kind of make it work if we can work together on this.
I think so too, and I would just recommend if it just seems to me that the place to put it would be halfway up on the drawing where it is now, move it 10 spaces up to the middle of that parking lot, somewhere in there, to keep it away from where the pedestrian walkways are, and yeah, somewhere up, that's what I would say.
Sure.
I mean, that's just my opinion, others may disagree, but it seems to me that that's sort of, you know, the best of all, a difficult situation. I appreciate that these things are necessary, especially in this building type, because these buildings actually have 2 entrances. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to find the back of a building to, you know, to have an entrance into a trash room in the building. So I think that something like that might be the best compromise myself.
Are the spaces that look like they have bollards and lined out, are those handicap spots or are those loading spots? You know, the ones that
These here?
Yeah.
Those are handicap
Okay.
parking, and it's the handicap accessible aisle, and
Okay, fine.
you know,
No problem. Great, thank you.
And I'd just like to get back to, I haven't heard your response yet to the steel panels as opposed to the plastic ones.
I'm not familiar, I mean, I'm sure we can find a product, Mark, you could help us with that, you know, I'm sure there's something out there, we'll just take a look, I don't think we're opposed to that, at all.
Great, thank you.
The other issue, can you speak to it, is, I mean, assuming that we move forward and approve this, there are a couple of things in here I think that I would wanna see, and that is again, that you will continue 2 pickups each week at all these dumpsters. And the other issue was, I didn't mention it yet, but whatever your rodent and vermin elimination program is, we should have that earmarked as well. You must have something, I'm sure Whole Foods.
We do, it was submitted as part of the approval to the town, there's a, you know, an extermination plan, or I forget exactly what we call it.
Okay.
But that was submitted and that is being followed, and that's also provided to the tenants as well, as they have to follow those protocols, you know, per the releases.
Good, so I presume that there wouldn't be any opposition if we incorporate that into our resolution of approval for this amendment.
No.
Okay.
And actually, that was actually spelled out in the August 22nd letter. They talk about the continuation of the pest management plan.
Right.
So I have a question of, I don't know whether city carding has this technology, but I'm familiar with a technology that I've heard about elsewhere, where you actually put a sensor inside the bin, and the trash gets picked up when the sensor reads that the bin is full. So it's not based on a regular schedule, it's really sort of on demand. Is that something that makes sense here? I know that Bob has a concern, I completely agree with it, this organic waste sitting for too long. I wonder if that kind of technology is available and would be useful here.
I'm not sure what Win Industrial has on that, Tom, to be honest with you, we could certainly inquire. But I would kind of just like to go back to your first statement where you said you didn't think that we were being, you know, asked to do something that other landowners and other landlords aren't doing in town, and it seems like if there's not a large cost to it, maybe we, and Win Industrial has it, or Win Waste has it, you know, certainly we can ask them and find that out, but I don't know if there's a significant cost to something like that. I'm not even familiar with the product, so I can't really speak to it intelligently.
Fair enough, I'm familiar with it because of the son of a friend started this business in San Francisco, and they're doing very, very well, and the whole point of it is actually
It's a great idea.
the point of it is to reduce the cost, so that you don't have trucks running around emptying bins that are only half full.
Right.
So,
But doesn't that go against the idea that it might be sitting longer than if you don't meet certain thresholds?
that's right, and I mentioned that Bob has that concern, so I was just curious about if it had application here, that's all.
Okay. Anyone else, any questions?
Nope.
Do we have any questions from the public on this? Anything at all, Freedom, on anyone's hand, electronic hand held up?
Nobody online.
Okay. It's a shutout tonight. We've pitched another perfect game here. All right. Well, what's the pleasure of the board? I'm perfectly fine to close the public hearing and get these minor changes in and move this forward for a resolution.
Yep.
Presuming, or I mean, we can continue the public hearing, I guess, but because we will see some additional information, so it's not gonna lose any time. But I think we're pretty close, and if we get these couple of little things taken care of, we can be set to adopt a resolution next time around.
Okay, and just to recap, so we're gonna look at a different material, preferably metal on the surround, we'll put some sort of curb stops in the back, and then we'll change the location of the dumpster between E and D, correct?
Yeah, the backs and the sides of the of
Yeah, the entire enclosure, yeah.
Thank you,
Yep,
great.
that's what I meant. Thank you for clarifying.
Right, and then we'll confirm, we'll continue with the twice a week pickups, and whatever it is, it'll just give us the information that you already use for the vermin and you know, control.
Okay.
And I think that was about it, right? Fair enough? So, I mean, there's just so much interest in this application, I hate to close the public hearing, but I guess we could just adjourn it and schedule a firm date and have you guys back and get this thing done. Can you get our material, this material to us in within 2 weeks so we can get you done in October?
Yeah, so would we have to wait until October? I mean, can we just, I mean, these are pretty simple changes. Can we move forward with closing the hearing and we'll provide you with the updated plan and specifications? That would be very helpful because we're up against, again, Tom, and when I say we, I mean, the Heitman Group is up against the, you know, the cost of the ever, you know, the cost of these temporary certificates of occupancy, which are enormously expensive. And I know that they would certainly like to get this resolved so we can move forward with closing out the rest of the final certificate of occupancy, so there's no longer any temporaries after.
Okay.
So,
Sabrina, do you have any issues or questions or problems with that, with our closing it at this point?
No, we would do, if you close the public hearing, we can drop a resolution for the chairman's signature. It really is, it's the pleasure of the board if you wanna do that. We just need time to be able to put the resolution together.
Right. Drew, is that okay?
Yeah, if the board feels comfortable, they can do that. So there's a couple different options. If you want to have it in a, you know, close the public hearing and make your decision in October, you can do that. If you're comfortable now and you wanna close the public hearing and direct resolution just for your signature, if the board wants to approve it tonight. Right, Sabrina, that's what you were saying?
I think,
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
think the board would wanna see the resolution.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be just something that's sent to me just for signature. So I think what we can do is close a public hearing, defer our decision until the next meeting, when we have the resolution in front of us, and then we can make whatever changes, if any, to the resolution, and we're off and done.
okay.
But if I don't know what the dates are, Felicia, what's the other October meeting? Is there an earlier one?
There is the October 5th meeting. The deadline was September 12th, but we're saying that we're just gonna be getting.
We can waive it, the question is how quickly can you get revised information to us?
Right.
Well, the location change, you know, Mark, I don't wanna speak for your team, but certainly the location change shouldn't take that much longer. We need a day or so to research some alternative metal materials for this surround, but again, I think we can come back with something quick. Mark, what do you think?
I think so, I mean, the location change is not an issue, the colors are not an issue. So it's really just, you know, getting to the appropriate fence material.
Right. So if you can get this material to us, say by Friday, this Friday, 3 days
This
from
Friday or-
yeah, Wednesday, Thursday,
We
Friday,
could
3 days.
either shoot for that or could I request a week from today? Might be more
I
realistic,
think, you know, folks, listen, we have a lot of balls in the air in my office with resolutions for other applications and things. You know, we can attempt to try and get you on the October 5th, but I don't wanna make I can make that a soft commitment. I'd rather make a hard commitment by the second meeting in October.
And again, in line with what Sabrina just said, I think to the extent that you can get materials into the office by the end of this week, it helps our position or helps your position to get on the October 5, otherwise we'll see you in the second one.
Yeah, that's what I will do, that's all I can do.
All right, is there a motion then to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll see you
Do you do a
soon.
motion to direct preparation of a resolution?
Yes, okay, is there such a motion to direct preparation of a resolution
So
for
moved.
the next meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
yep, very good. Okay, we now have a request for an extension of approval. This is the Chappaqua Central School District. This is the application for a preliminary subdivision plat, steep slope, tree removal, stormwater pollution prevention plan approval at Button Hook Road and Sabina Road. We last heard this, I guess, on May 3rd. So this is a request for an extension for, I forget, till November 25. My understanding is that things are moving along between the applicant and the DEP and on this application. And so I haven't heard any reason that we would not want to or grant the requested extension. Is that the case, Sabrina and Bob?
I have no objection.
I have no objection.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to grant the applicant the requested extension?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Our next item is an extension for 767 King Street LLC, Chiselhurst subdivision lot number 6. This is a request for an extension of approval, site development plan, 767 King Street. We last heard it back in January, and this is a request, I guess a retroactive request, a couple of days ago, September 4, to extend the building permit approval extension until September 4, 2023. Again, I don't believe there are any issues or objections. Again, these applicants have all been subject to COVID, all the delays with planning and materials and labor and everything else, so. Any issues at all, Sabrina or Bob? No? Is there a motion then to grant the extension requested by the applicant?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have some minutes. We have the minutes of July 5. I gotta say, Felicia, having these minutes like this in a timely fashion was fantastic. We're looking at applicants again, we have the minutes in front of us, it was just terrific.
We continue.
We'll just keep beating that drum, I guess, but it really is terrific. It was so helpful. So thank you very, very much.
I do wanna say it definitely makes a difference when we're not dealing with very large applications with assorted conversations and days long recordings.
Yep.
But she's
Okay.
doing a fantastic job.
July 5, any questions or changes?
No.
I have one little minor one, I'll just slip it to you afterwards, the wordsmith. Anything that's material from anyone? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended on July 5?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. And we have the minutes from July 19. Oh, you were absent? Okay. Any questions, changes on this set of minutes? I don't think I have any.
I think they're perfect. Or to
They
quote,
get better the later it gets, doesn't it?
Yeah, they do.
or to quote Eldad, I don't hate it.
By the way, that's our new motto.
It is.
That's where we're going now, yes.
It's gonna go on the wall.
Okay.
You were absent, we actually cited that, and you could see the applicant's knees buckle when we said it. In any event, is there a motion to adopt the minutes of July 19?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And one absent. Okay, we're all set. So, my understanding is there might be a joint meeting with the town board?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to get I guess understanding from all of the board members present if they are able to appear before the town board. I don't know that it is a joint meeting, it is a joint discussion, it is a town board meeting that they are inviting you to discuss the ULI and charrette process. But it is, your attendance can be virtual, you're not required to be there in person. But I need confirmation of the board's availability for the discussion.
And what date is it?
It would be September 20th, from 6:30 on.
So this is a town board meeting, not a town board work session?
It's a town board work session, it is not a joint meeting.
Okay,
Sabrina, did you say 2/8 or 2/0?
20th.
2/0, September 20th.
And at what, 6:30?
And anytime at 6:30 or after. I'm not in control with that
Right,
agenda.
Okay,
I can certainly
I am
do
available.
virtual.
I'm available.
Yeah, I could be here.
Okay.
I can do virtual for sure.
Say that again, John?
I might be traveling, so I can do virtual for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else? If not, welcome back. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all set. Great, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thank you, good night.